The desperate signal Captain Elena Rodriguez floated in the observation deck of the research vessel Horizon's Edge, watching the stars drift past like distant diamonds. Her ship had been conducting deep space surveys for 6 months, mapping unexplored regions of the outer rim. The crew of 35 scientists, engineers, and support staff had signed up for peaceful exploration, not the nightmare that was about to unfold. The ship's communication array suddenly came alive with urgent beeping. Alana pushed off from the viewing port and glided toward the bridge, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck plating as artificial gravity took hold. The Horizon's Edge was humanity's most advanced research vessel, equipped with sensors that could detect a whisper across star systems. Dr. Sarah Chun was hunched over her workstation, her dark hair falling across her face as she studied the incoming data. As the ship's xenolinguistics expert, Sarah had spent years learning to communicate with the 3 alien species humanity had encountered: the gentle traders of Proxima, the crystal singers of Vega, and the deep thinkers of Wolf 359 had all welcomed human contact with curiosity and friendship. "Captain, we're receiving something unusual," Sarah called out without looking up. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, analyzing wave patterns and frequency modulations. "It's definitely artificial, but the structure is unlike anything in our databases." Elena moved to Sarah's station. The main screen showed a complex waveform, pulsing with desperate urgency. Even without translation, the signal felt wrong. There was pain in those electronic pulses, fear encoded in mathematics that transcended language barriers. Commander Max Torres joined them, his weathered face creased with concern. As head of ship security, Max had seen action during the resource wars on Earth before joining the peaceful exploration program. His instincts were telling him this signal meant trouble. "How long has this been transmitting?" Elena asked. "According to the decay analysis, about 8 months," Sarah replied. "It's coming from the Zephyrian system, roughly 40 light years from here. The signal repeats every 4 hours in 17 minutes. Elena studied the readout. The Zephyrian system was uncharted territory, far beyond the established trade routes. No human or known alien species had ever reported contact with that region of space. "Can you translate it?" Elena asked. Sarah's fingers continued their dance across the controls. "I'm running it through every linguistic matrix we have. The mathematical base appears to be—" "Wait," she paused, her eyes widening. "Captain, this is using base 10 mathematics. That's remarkable because most alien species we've encountered use different numerical systems based on their physiology." "What does that mean?" Max asked. "It means whoever sent this signal might have studied us," Sarah replied. "They're using human mathematical concepts to ensure we can understand their message." The bridge fell silent as Sarah's translation algorithms worked. Engineer Zara Okafor arrived from the engine room, her coveralls stained with coolant from the quantum drive. Maintenance. Pilot Jake Morrison abandoned his navigation charts to join the growing crowd around Sarah's workstation. After 2 hours of intense work, Sarah finally looked up. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking slightly. "I've got it," she whispered. "Captain, you need to hear this." Sarah activated the ship's communication system. A synthetic voice began speaking in clear, emotionless English. "To anyone receiving this transmission, this is High Counselor Zethara of the Zephyrian Alliance. Our worlds are dying. Our people are being harvested by entities we cannot comprehend or resist. Our fleets have been destroyed, our cities burned, our children taken for purposes too horrible to describe." The bridge crew listened in stunned silence as the message continued. "We have studied the star charts and learned of many species throughout the galaxy. Most are peaceful like ourselves. Most would fall quickly to the enemy that hunts us. But we have heard whispers from traders and deep space travelers. whispers about a small blue planet in the inner systems, whispers about beings called humans, who come from what others call a death world. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She had never thought of Earth as particularly dangerous compared to other worlds they had surveyed. We have learned that this death world created a species unlike any other in the galaxy. A species that evolved not just to survive, but to thrive in the face of constant danger. A species that builds weapons when others build art, that studies war when others study poetry. If these stories are true, if there really are beings who can fight when all others fall, please help us. Please show us that evolution on a death world creates more than just survivors. Please show us it creates warriors. The message ended with coordinates and a detailed description of the enemy's capabilities. Elena looked around at her crew. These were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. They had joined the space program to study distant stars and make contact with peaceful alien civilizations. "Captain," Max said quietly, "we should report this to Earth Command and let them decide how to respond." Elena nodded slowly, but something in the alien message had awakened something deep in her human DNA. Her ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters that would have ended most species. They had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain, not through size or strength, but through intelligence, adaptability, and an absolute refusal to give up. "Plot a course for the Zephyrian system," Elena ordered. "Captain?" Jake looked confused. "Our mission parameters specifically state that we're to avoid uncharted regions without proper authorization." Elena turned to face her crew. "Those parameters were written before we knew there was a species being exterminated out there. Before we knew they had specifically asked for our help." "What if it's a trap?" Max asked. "What if some hostile species is using this message to lure human ships into an ambush?" "Then we'll deal with it," Elena replied. "But if it's real, if there really are people dying out there who believe only humans can help them, then we have a responsibility to act." Zara spoke up from her position near the engineering console. "Captain, our ship isn't equipped for combat. We have basic defensive shields and a few mining lasers, but nothing that could stand up to a real military threat." "We're not going there to fight," Elena said. "We're going to gather intelligence and see if we can help any survivors. If the situation is as bad as the message suggests, we'll send a full report to Earth and let them decide on military action." The crew exchanged glances. Elena could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. The same spark that had driven humans to explore every dangerous corner of their homeworld was flickering to life. "All right, people," Elena announced. "Jake, set course for the Zephyrian system. Maximum safe speed. Zara, I want all systems running at peak efficiency. Max, review our defensive capabilities and emergency procedures. Sarah, keep working on that translation. I want to know everything we can learn about this enemy before we arrive." The Horizon's Edge changed course, its quantum drives pushing the ship toward unknown dangers. As they traveled through hyperspace, Sarah continued analyzing the alien message. She discovered additional data packets containing technical specifications, historical records, and what appeared to be battlefield recordings. The picture that emerged was terrifying. The Zephyrian Alliance had been a peaceful confederation of 17 worlds, home to over 4 billion beings. They were skilled artists, philosophers, and scientists who had never known war. Their technology was advanced, but focused on creation rather than destruction. 6 months ago, ships had appeared at the edge of their space. The vessels were unlike anything in the galactic databases, organic-looking constructs that seemed to grow rather than being built. The beings inside called themselves the Void Collective, and they had come to harvest the Zephyrians for reasons that remained unclear. The Zephyrian defense fleets had been swept aside in hours. Their weapons, designed for protection rather than aggression, had barely scratched the enemy ships. World after world had fallen to the collective's advance, their populations either killed or taken for unknown purposes. "Captain," Sarah reported 3 days into their journey, "I've found something disturbing in the additional data. The Void Collective isn't just randomly attacking. They're specifically targeting peaceful species with advanced technology. It's like they're collecting civilizations that can't fight back." Elena studied the translated records. The pattern was clear. The collective had attacked 7 different species over the past 2 years, all of them peaceful traders or scientific communities. They seemed to avoid regions where aggressive or militaristic species lived. "They're predators," Max observed. "They hunt the weak and avoid anything that might fight back effectively." The Horizon's Edge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system 4 days later. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The outer planets were dark, their cities cold and lifeless. Debris fields marked the sites of desperate last stands, the beautiful crystal cities the Zephyrians had built on their asteroid colonies were nothing but glittering rubble. "Life signs," Jake reported from his sensor station. "Faint, but definite. Coming from the 3rd planet." Elena ordered a cautious approach. As they drew closer to the planet's surface, they could see the devastation clearly. Massive cities had been reduced to twisted metal and burning ruins. The planet's once blue oceans were stained with ash and debris, but there were survivors. Hidden in underground bunkers and remote mountain caves, small groups of Zephyrians had managed to avoid the collective's harvest. Sarah established communication with them using the linguistic patterns she had learned from the distress signal. The first alien they spoke with was an elderly Zephyrian named Kethver. His people were tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. Kethvar had been a teacher before the invasion, responsible for educating young Zephyrians about art and philosophy. "You came," Kethvar said through the translation system, his voice filled with wonder. "The humans from the deathworld actually came." Elena felt the weight of expectation in his words. "We received your message. We're here to help however we can. But you are so few," Kethver observed. "And your ship ... does not appear to be built for war." Elena exchanged glances with her crew. The old Zephyrian was right. They were scientists in a research vessel, facing an enemy that had destroyed an entire interstellar civilization. "We may be few," Elena replied, "but we're not alone. Earth will send help once they learn what's happening here." Kethver's large eyes seemed to shine with hope. The trader spoke truly then. Humans do not abandon those who ask for their aid. As Elena and her crew worked to evacuate the surviving Zephyrians to their ship, Max pulled her aside. "Captain, I've been analyzing the battle recordings. This Void Collective has technology that's centuries ahead of anything we've seen. Their ships can absorb energy weapons and regenerate damage. They have some kind of harvesting beam that can extract populations from entire planets. If Earth sends a conventional fleet, they'll be slaughtered just like the Zephyrians were." Elena looked out at the ruined planet below them. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Void Collective was preparing to harvest more worlds, more civilizations that couldn't fight back. "Maybe conventional won't be enough," she said quietly. "But humans have never been conventional. We've survived everything our death world could throw at us. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, plagues. We're still here because we adapt. We learn. We find ways to win when winning should be impossible." She activated the ship's long-range communication array and began composing a message to Earth. A message that would wake something that had been sleeping in the depths of humanity's military infrastructure. Something that peaceful, alien species had never suspected existed. The deathworld was about to show the galaxy what it meant to evolve in hell. Asterisk. The deathworld responds. Admiral Jessica Kane stood in the war room, deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, her weathered hands gripping the edge of a holographic display table. Around her, dozens of military officers studied incoming data with the focused intensity of predators analyzing their prey. The message from Captain Rodriguez had arrived 6 hours ago, and its implications were still sending shockwaves through Earth's highest levels of command. "Show me the analysis again," Jessica ordered. Colonel Ryan Park activated the holographic display, filling the air above the table with three-dimensional models of Void Collective ships. The organic-looking vessels rotated slowly, their twisted forms highlighted in red. According to the Zephyrian data, these ships can absorb directed energy weapons and convert the power to strengthen their hulls, Ryan explained. They're essentially immune to conventional laser and plasma weaponry. Their harvesting beams can strip the population from an entire planet in a matter of hours. Jessica studied the enemy vessels with the eye of someone who had spent 40 years in military service. She had fought in the colony wars, survived the Titan Rebellion, and commanded fleets in 3 different star systems. But she had never faced anything like this. "What about kinetic weapons?" she asked. "The ships seem to have adaptive armor," replied Lieutenant Maya Singh from her position at the tactical station. "They can redistribute mass to absorb impacts and repair damage using some kind of biological regeneration system." Jessica nodded grimly. The Void Collective had evolved the perfect weapons for hunting peaceful civilizations. Their technology was specifically designed to counter the defensive systems that most species would use: energy shields, plasma cannons, and gravitational weapons. But humans had not developed their military technology to fight other spacefaring species. They had developed it to fight each other in an endless arms race that had been raging since the first human picked up a rock and threw it at an enemy. "Colonel Park," Jessica said, "activate Protocol 7. Ryan's eyes widened slightly. Protocol 7 was humanity's deepest military secret, known only to a handful of officers with the highest security clearances. "Ma'am, are you certain?" "Protocol 7 hasn't been tested in actual combat conditions. The Void Collective is heading toward inhabited systems," Jessica replied. "Intelligence estimates they'll reach the Proxima colonies within 6 months. If we're going to stop them, we need every advantage we can get." Jessica activated her command authorization codes, and alarms began sounding throughout the mountain complex. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in bunkers that didn't appear on any official maps, automated systems began powering up equipment that hadn't been activated since its construction. Protocol 7 was humanity's answer to the question that had haunted military planners for decades. What if humanity encountered a technologically superior alien species with hostile intentions? The answer had been to develop weapons that didn't rely on advanced technology or exotic physics. Instead, they had gone back to the basics of human warfare: deception, adaptability, and overwhelming violence applied with surgical precision. Across Earth, military personnel began receiving coded messages. Most of them were living normal civilian lives: teachers, farmers, mechanics, small business owners. But they all shared one common trait: they were graduates of humanity's most classified training program. On a farm in Kansas, retired Marine Colonel Sarah Mitchell received a message on her secure communicator. She had been teaching her young daughter how to repair agricultural equipment when the alert came through. Sarah read the message twice, then calmly told her daughter to call her grandmother and pack a bag for an extended stay in Tokyo, Dr. James. Nakamura was conducting a lecture on theoretical physics when his watch began vibrating in a specific pattern. He finished his sentence, dismissed the class early, and walked out of the university. He would not return in Snow Paulo. Mechanic Luis Ramirez was working under the hood of an old hover car when his encrypted phone buzzed. He read the message, wiped his hands on his coveralls, and told his assistant he had a family emergency. 3 hours later, he was on a transport to coordinates that didn't appear on any civilian maps. All across Earth, 5,000 carefully selected individuals quietly disappeared from their normal lives. They had been chosen not for their advanced education or impressive credentials, but for a much more basic qualification. They were absolutely, ruthlessly effective at killing things. The rendezvous point was a seemingly empty region of space, beyond the orbit of Pluto. As the recruits arrived in unmarked transport ships, a massive structure began to decloak itself. The station was larger than most cities, its hull bristling with weapons that had never appeared in any military procurement document. Admiral Kane's flagship, the Death's Edge, was the first of humanity's Protocol 7 assets to reveal itself. The ship was built like a predator, angular, aggressive, and covered in weapon systems that had been designed with one purpose: to kill anything that threatened Earth. As more ships decloaked around the station, the full scope of Protocol 7 became clear. Humanity had been building a secret fleet for over 20 years, preparing for the day when their species would face extinction from the stars. The ships were not elegant or beautiful like the vessels of peaceful alien races. They were functional, brutal, and absolutely lethal. Asterisk. Colonel Park's transport docked with the Death's Edge, and he made his way to the bridge where Admiral Kane was reviewing tactical displays. The bridge was a study in efficient violence, every system designed to give its operators maximum information, and firepower with minimum delay. "Status report," Jessica ordered as Ryan joined her at the command station. "All personnel are arriving on schedule," Ryan replied. "We'll have full crew complement within 18 hours. The weapon systems are powering up, and our intelligence assets are providing real-time updates on Void collective movements." Jessica studied the tactical display showing the location of enemy forces. The collective had split into multiple fleets, each one heading toward a different inhabited system. They were systematic in their approach, clearly intending to harvest every peaceful species they could find. "They don't know we're coming," Jessica observed. "They've studied the peaceful races, but they've never encountered a species that evolved to constant warfare." The fleet that humanity assembled was unlike anything that had ever existed in the galaxy. While other species built ships to explore or trade, humans had built these vessels to hunt and kill. The ships carried weapons that operated on principles that peaceful species had never considered: kinetic projectiles that could punch through adaptive armor, chemical weapons that could dissolve organic hull materials, and electromagnetic pulses that could disrupt biological systems. Most importantly, the human fleet carried something that no other species possessed: 5,000 individuals who had been specifically trained to kill efficiently and without mercy. They were farmers and teachers and mechanics, but they were also the deadliest predators their deathworld had ever produced. The first engagement took place in the Kepler system, where a Void collective harvesting fleet was in the process of stripping a world inhabited by the peaceful harmony singers. The alien species was known throughout the galaxy for their beautiful music and their absolute commitment to non-violence. Admiral Kane's fleet dropped out of hyperspace without warning, their ships appearing like ghosts among the asteroids. The Void collective vessels immediately began their standard attack pattern, firing energy-absorbing beams at the human ships. "All ships execute pattern Alpha," Jessica ordered. The human fleet scattered like a school of fish avoiding a predator, but their movement was coordinated and purposeful. Instead of engaging the enemy directly, they began launching thousands of small projectiles, simple chunks of metal, accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic railguns. The Void collective ships tried to adapt, their organic hulls shifting to absorb the kinetic impacts. But the human projectiles weren't designed to penetrate. They were designed to deliver payloads. As each projectile struck, It released clouds of engineered bacteria that immediately began consuming the organic components of the enemy ships. Enemy vessels are showing signs of systemic breakdown, Lieutenant Singh reported. Their hulls are dissolving at the molecular level. The Void Collective tried their harvesting beams on the human ships, but the humans had anticipated this. Instead of trying to resist the beams, they used them. The energy was redirected through specially designed conduits that fed it directly into the ship's weapon systems. Target their command vessel, Jessica ordered. Full spread all weapons. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Kinetic projectiles, chemical weapons, electromagnetic pulses, and exotic matter bombs all struck the largest Void Collective ship simultaneously. The enemy vessel, which had seemed invincible against energy weapons, simply came apart under the coordinated assault dot. As the remaining collective ships tried to retreat, human fighters swarmed them like angry wasps. The small, fast ships carried pilots who had been trained to think like predators, to exploit every weakness and press every advantaged out. In less than an hour, the entire Void Collective fleet had been destroyed. Not a single enemy vessel escaped. To report what had happened, Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the debris field that had once been humanity's first real interstellar enemy. Around her, crew members were already analyzing the wreckage and preparing for the next engagement. "Send a message to the Harmony Singers," she ordered. "Tell them they're safe. Tell them the deathworld heard their song." As news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy, something fundamental changed in how other species viewed humanity. The peaceful traders and explorers were revealed to be something much more dangerous, apex predators, who had been hiding their true nature behind smiles and handshakes. The Zephyrian elder Kethfer, now safely aboard a human evacuation ship, watched the tactical displays with amazement. His people had fought the Void Collective with honor and courage, but they had fought like prey animals trying to escape a predator. The humans fought like predators, hunting other predators. "Your species," he said to Captain Rodriguez, "is unlike anything we imagined possible." Elena looked at the tactical display, showing the systematic destruction of Void Collective fleets throughout the region. Each battle followed the same pattern. The humans would appear without warning, identify their enemies' weaknesses, and exploit them with ruthless efficiency. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years," Elena replied. "We learned to survive by becoming better killers than anything that hunted us. We just never had to use those skills against other intelligent species before." The campaign to eliminate the Void Collective took 6 months. Human fleets tracked down every harvesting ship, every command vessel, every support craft. They showed no mercy and took no prisoners. Species that had specialized in hunting peaceful civilizations found themselves face to face with a species that specialized in hunting everything. When it was over, the galaxy had learned a new truth about the small blue planet in the inner systems. Earth was indeed a death world, but it had not weakened its children. Instead, it had forged them into something that could protect all the peaceful species among the stars. The whispered stories that traders told in distant ports were true. Humans were different. They came from hell itself, and they had brought its lessons with them to the stars. The death world had answered the call, and the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.